Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Joseph Parker has taken a majority decision over Zhang Zhilei, getting himself off the canvas twice in the fight to take a majority of the rounds against a fading Jang who didn't have much left by the end of the fight, barely threw any punches in round 12. And you got to say, Zhang let it slip away, didn't take advantage of those knockdowns, didn't throw enough. He allowed himself to be outworked by Joseph Parker, who takes another huge win for his career. And you got to say, Joseph Parker, off the back of Deontay Wilder and Zhang Zhilei wins, deserves a title shot. He will be in the mix for a title shot at some point, now the holder of the WBO interim title, which was on the line. And what was hilarious at the end was Zhang seemed to be absolutely flummoxed by the decision, throwing his hands up as it was announced Joseph Parker was the winner, but he's only got himself to blame. He absolutely, with great timing, and he's got that power in his hands, the right hook and the left hand, put Joseph Parker on the canvas just with ease in round 2 and round 8. And they were rounds that he was losing, wasn't doing much, and out of nowhere, the first one was a straight left, Joseph Parker all of a sudden was on the canvas 10-8 round to Zhang. Also, round 8, it was a chopping right hook, Parker down. But in between times, what you had was a busier, active Joseph Parker. And the punch stats prove this out. More than double the shots landed against his opponent. So you had a case where Parker was just, it's not exactly like it was a huge sort of fight in terms of work rate, but you had one guy who was just doing more, landing nice 1-2s. He started to get the jab going to body and head. He was throwing straight right hands, also some looping shots on occasion, and certainly there were a couple of times where he got Zhang's attention with big right hands. Even a couple of left hooks came in at points and just got Zhang's attention. But there was very little urgency at all from Team Zhang. The only urgency you had was before the 12th round when his trainer said, "I don't trust the judges, you need a knockout." But Zhang barely threw any punches, and they said he didn't land any in that final round. But it was clear, and I said this in my preview video, that I thought this would be a fight of two halves. A very dangerous Zhang early, Joseph Parker would have to watch out, and Parker I saw taking over the fight in the second half. And largely that's what we got, except obviously Parker found himself on the seat of his pants on the canvas in round 8. But apart from that, the busier Joseph Parker, who was utilizing feints, good upper body movement, was showing nice 1-2s. He wasn't getting too greedy with what he was looking for. He was in and out. He just did the better quality work overall. Sure, Zhang had the highlights in terms of the knockdowns, but there was very little else. I had Zhang taking round 1, arguably round 2. You potentially could have given that to Zhang. It was close. I gave it to Parker though, and then round 8 obviously. But in between the moments of success from Zhang, just wasn't doing enough. He will really need to look at himself in the performance, because right from early on, after that round 3 knockdown, didn't take advantage, didn't capitalize, didn't swarm on Parker. He was very conscious of his output. So much so, even by round 5 or 6, he was breathing quite heavy, despite it not being a high volume fight, despite him not really working that hard. But it was clearly taking a toll, and by the end of the fight, barely threw any punches in round 12. And if he had of taken round 12, 11 or 12, that would have been enough for him to basically claim the fight. But Joseph Parker becomes the WBO interim champion, and it looks like we'll get a rematch, because he was asked after the fight, what was next, and he said, it's in the contract. I'll be fighting Zhang next, who's had a one-way rematch clause. Zhang, who's fighting under Frank Warren at the moment, had negotiated that into the contract. So it looks like we will see that again, potentially in June. That is one of the next dates that's going to be in Saudi Arabia, potentially later in the year. Maybe there will be a 6-month gap between the rematch, if in fact the rematch occurs. Because one thing you have to ask the question of, what is next for Zhang? Is he going to take the rematch? I'd imagine so, because I'm sure it's going to be big money, especially if it's in Saudi Arabia, and perhaps it could be in June, maybe it'll be in 6 months, September, somewhere there or thereabouts. We'll have to see. But the next version of Zhang in 6 months, I think, based on what we've seen tonight, will probably be slowed down even further. At times, he was looking, not only just gassed, he was looking slow. The tactic seemed to be, I'm just going to try to knock you out. Sort of, a lot of those rounds in this fight, did resemble the Joseph Parker versus Deontay Wilder fight, where Parker's fighting a puncher, doing enough to evade the best of the other guy, outworking him, taking the rounds. There was a lot of the fight that just same pattern over and over, and in between times, Parker found himself on the canvas a couple of times. And Zhang, great timing. He just touched Parker both times. Didn't look like he put everything into it, but he's got great power, great timing. And Joseph Parker, at other points where he was tasting some of that power from Zhang, looked affected, even in shots where it was just cuffing. So you have to give credit to Parker and Andy Lee, this relationship, trainer and fighter, which is just going from strength to strength. From 18 months ago, where he was sort of out in the cold a little bit, had that stinker against Jack Massey. Just over a year later, a win against Deontay Wilder, now a win against Zhang Zhilei, WBO interim title holder, and seemingly waiting for a title shot. But he will have to probably go through Zhang again. But do we need to see it again? And will the version in 6 months of Zhang be a lesser version? After all, it's pretty much all downhill in terms of speed and reflexes and such after 40. He's not going to get any better. The power is the last to go, and we've still seen that he's got that in spades. But obviously, if you're barely throwing any punches and you're letting rounds slip away, you make it hard for yourself. So Joseph Parker, massive win. What'd you make of the fight? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.